Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
This is the little video we're going to do on the Polish 10th mechanised, or 10th motorised, whichever you want to call them. This is a standard platoon. I've wrought it up to Polish level. If you buy it from Warlord, you'll get 10 figures in a box. What we decided to do was do a little bit of modification, and which gave us a figure spare, and bring it up to a 19-man platoon. That's so we can use them on armoured trains and stuff like that, where they carry the standard platoon. So that's roughly where we are. So this is the standard, all the figures you get in the box. You get this is 2 boxes, so this will put you back about £30 for the whole lot. And there's the nice little officer there in charge of the platoon, and all the guys are in greatcoats. In fact, most of the Polish army was in greatcoat. This chap here I have modified. I've done a video on this already. I've given him a belt of ammunition, and I've given him an ammunition box, so that turns this unit into a light machine gun, which I thought was quite cool. And that guy there I'm just using as a bar. So basically it's upgrading the platoon to have a light machine gun team, because at the moment there aren't any light machine guns available, so that's what we did. So it's a squad with light machine gun, 16 riflemen and an NCO and a bar, so that's a decent amount of firepower, especially given it's a 19-man squad.
Yep. Especially, I mean, I hate 90-man squads. And now I've actually, because when he first said that, oh, it's 90-man squad, I thought, yeah, I'll do with it. Because I'm playing Russians, machine guns. The thing is, a 90-man squad versus a tiny Russian squad, which just kills you, just eliminates your army.
It's just very hard to take down a squad that's 19 men strong.
I have to kill at least 10 in one round.
It also makes them expensive. These will put you back 260 points.
Which is 10 off the greatest tank the Russians had. Yeah,
which is quite expensive a unit, because you're paying, I think, about 16 points per man. Yeah, so that's kind of a downside. However, the Polish army was a pretty powerful army, so you need to take that into consideration. So the 19-man squads do make it quite powerful.
But they could never win.
Why can't they ever win?
They could have never won in real life.
Of course they could have.
No, they could have. The Russians just kept coming and coming and coming. You can't stop the Russians from coming in more and more and more.
Well, yeah, you talk about the Russians. Could they have defeated Germany? Well,
perhaps, yes, if the Russians didn't come in the rear.
The whole plan was, the Poles were actually shying away from war by the time war broke out, because they didn't trust the French and the British. But the French and British persuaded them to fight, so that's what really got them into the war. The problem with the Poles, their combat doctrine, which I've discussed this before, their combat doctrine was based around withdrawing in front of the Germans and then hitting them when the Germans get to the end of the lines of supply. The downside with that is they changed the combat doctrine literally like a month before the war broke out, because High Command realised that if the Germans took the Danzig corridor, Hitler may very well have said, right, the war's over. Which would leave Poland without the Danzig corridor and no ability to carry on fighting, because the war would be over.
Okay, that's a very low war.
Yeah, so they were like, oh, we've lost, that's it, game over. So they changed the doctrine and moved a lot of troops to the north to protect the Danzig corridor, which they should have been using down the south. So their grand battle plan was good. However, they changed it at the last minute, which was bad.
But that could have stopped Hitler.
Yeah, well, long term they could have bet the Germans. The Russians came in the rear, which really ended the war for them. But the fact is, the British and the French did nothing
until they declared war after Warsaw was destroyed.
Yeah, well, the British and French just dithered around. and the French didn't have the guts to invade Germany.
Well, I do think it's very funny the way that we declare war, 1 month later, we're in Dunkirk, legging off.
Yeah.
Trying to get out of there.
Yeah, we just weren't ready for war. The grand plan was that the Poles would withdraw in front of the Germans, the Poles would then hit the Germans back when the Germans are extended, giving the Germans a bloody nose, and then the French and the British would come in the rear and invade Germany and take Berlin, and the war would be over. That was the plot. The British and French just weren't up to it. The British and French armies were not ready for the war. The British were probably more ready than the French were. But
which is why the French lost their whole country to the Germans.
Yeah, they just weren't ready to fight the war. They just weren't ready. These guys are probably the most ready people in Poland. These were motorised infantry. They were trained to fight with tanks. They were trained to fight in all modern tactics. The 10th motorised. Saying that they're all 10th motorised isn't exactly accurate, because all groups had motorised trained troops, basically Panzer Grenadiers, which is what these guys are. So there were units of motorised infantry in normal army units, usually cavalry units. But these guys, the guys with the black jacket, all these have the black jacket on underneath their trench coat, but you can't see it. That's a good way of doing it. That's the black jacket, and they were actually the 10th motorised, which were the best troops the Poles had. Yeah, so they were pretty good troops. Most of them escaped Poland and went to France. They fought in the Battle of France, evacuated from France and fought in England. Well, fought from England. They fought at Monte Cassino. They were the ones that took Monte Cassino in the end. So yeah, they had a long war.
Did they fight D-Day?
Yeah, they landed at D-Day. There weren't that many Poles landing at D-Day. I think most of them were in Italy at the time.
How come Poland didn't surrender after Warsaw was taken?
Because it was part of their grand plan. They didn't expect Poland to fall. So they didn't expect Warsaw to fall. Unfortunately, the troops who should have defended Warsaw had been pushed up north to help defend the Danzig corridor. So the defenders of Warsaw were basically whoever was there at the time. Same as the Battle of Berlin at the end. The troops defending Berlin were not the troops who were supposed to defend Berlin, because the troops who should have been there were down south.
Most of them were citizens fighting.
Yeah, because there was no army to stop them. Same thing happened at Warsaw.
No one showed any mercy to them, just shot them.
Yeah. So in Warsaw, a lot of the defenders were actually reservist troops who literally picked their uniform and rifled up that morning. And although they may have had a little bit of combat training in peacetime, they weren't up to fighting the Germans. So, yeah. Numerically, the Poles outnumbered the Germans militarily. Although most of the army wasn't actually raised up before the war started, because the British persuaded the Poles not to mobilise fully. And also the Polish government didn't believe that Hitler was telling the truth. They thought Hitler wouldn't attack. They thought he was all bluster.
Hitler said that he would become the head of Germany, and no one believed him, and he became the head of Germany.
Yeah.
And everybody who shunned over him would below him now.
Yeah, called him Sir and saluted him. Yeah. And the point is, Hitler said, if you fire any more bombs on us, you fire any more bullets at us, we will drop bombs on you. And he wasn't joking when he said it, he meant it. The thing is, with Hitler, you couldn't be sure when to take him seriously.
At least with Stalin,
you knew if Stalin said something, he was telling the truth.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So, Hitler said, I will attack you if you fire any more shells over the border. And the Poles carried on shelling Germany, so Germany invaded Poland. What did they expect to happen? I don't in any way blame the Polish High Command for making the mistakes it did. It was just it was wrong-footed. It didn't know what was going on. But that's the problem when you have a command staff. Often the command staff are made up of people from the last war. instead of people from the war you're fighting now.
What, the people who dug trenches and sat there all day?
Yeah, the ones who were trained to sit in trenches and stuff.
And walk slowly towards the enemy.
Yeah, although the Polish army was becoming very mechanised, they had a considerable amount of tanks. And you look on paper and say, oh, Poland had a very small amount of tanks. In reality, most of the Polish tanks were pretty modern.
There's a lot of tanks here.
Yeah, whereas most of the German tanks were basically glorified armoured cars.
So Poland made their own tanks?
Yeah, the TKS and the 7TP. The 7TP was the main Polish battle tank. We'll do a video on that next.
We've got a lot of videos to do on them.
Yeah, so anyway, this is the 10th motorised, and these guys were well trained. They were trained to fight alongside tanks, they were trained to take tanks out, they were equipped with anti-tank grenades, they were equipped with anti-tank mines. They were, one man out of every 6 carried a log. And the idea was, is you would lay on the floor and hope a tank doesn't machine gun you, and when the tank drives past, you shove the log in the tracks, and it rips the tracks off and immobilises the tank.
You just accidentally lay out wrong and he runs over you.
Yeah, I wouldn't have that job. If someone said, I want you to lay down and when that tank goes past, put a log in the side, I'd be like, no, I'm leaving now.
I'm not saying. And then shoot the officer in the back because he's insane. He's clinically insane.
You're nuts. Same tactic used by the Finns, by the way. Same troops, log troops. Which they used to use an iron bar usually, and they would just shove it in the track and it would rip the Russian tracks off, and then they'd steal the tank and drive around in it, which is fun. But yeah, so really the Poles were up against it, but they had a very, very good, well-trained army. Certainly as well-trained as the German army. I wouldn't say there was any real difference between German training and Polish training. It's just the Poles were stabbed in the back by the Russians. And the British and the French, although at least we didn't attack the Poles. We did absolutely nothing to help them.
No, we did say that we did give them marbles while the Germans invaded Warsaw. We said that Britain and France had declared war on Germany, and then Warsaw fell, and
then we didn't do anything.
And Poland surrendered.
But if you look at the casualty figures, the Germans took a lot of casualties for what was supposed to be a walkover. And also, bear in mind, the Germans hadn't invented blitzkrieg at the time. So the German army was basically fighting World War I again.
What? Tiny trench?
Yeah, whereas the Poles had actually kind of thought up the blitzkrieg idea. The idea of using fast-moving cavalry units to flank the enemy, which is what they did. And that's why they kept beating the Germans. It's just they didn't win they won battles, they didn't win strategically.
Nope.
Because you're constantly giving ground. And the problem is, the area you're giving ground, the area you're retreating to, is now occupied by the Russians. So you've got nowhere to go.
You're cornered.
Yeah. So,
checkmate.
Yeah. Although, on the table, I'm not sure how well the Poles will do against the Germans. The Poles actually hold their own against the Russians. And these troops are quite deadly against the Russians, because the Russians are only 11-man units, and the Poles, they just get that extra turn to surviving fire. That's what I found. And the Poles can just get that edge over the Russians, although the Russians have way more firepower.
Yeah, and if you lose, they come back more and more and more and more and more.
The best thing about these I've found altogether is they're veteran. All these guys are veteran, which means they all get a 5+ save.
Although we have... Cool. 4+.
It's a 5+, it's double the card wrong.
It said 4+ save.
Yeah, I've done it wrong.
Is it wrong? Yeah.
But
right.
yeah, so they all get a 5+ save because they're veteran, so yeah, that's pretty good. Most of the Russian army is regular, most of the German army is regular. So you get to kill them on a 4+. So yeah, that's quite good. That's good. Any more comments on these guys?
We have noticed that with these guys, if someone bombs them and then runs tanks into them, they don't like that.
I think it's the same for any army, if you do that to them. The platoon is worked out. So this is a section. It's a platoon. Sorry. It's worked out into sections, and the sections work. They have a light machine gun unit.
It's not a camera.
I'll move the camera in a minute.
There
I just saw the troops out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh. Right, that's basically a Polish platoon.
I'd say you have an officer there.
Yeah. So this is basically a Polish platoon, and it's a platoon, isn't it? Not a section. It's a platoon.
It's a platoon, yeah.
Yeah. So you have. Oh, it's a section made into 3. Oh, you know what I mean. This is a bolt action unit, basically. It's split up into 3. So you have a team led by the officer, a fire team with 4 rifles led by an officer and a light machine gun. Then you get a team of 5 soldiers with a bar and another team of just soldiers. So typically in bolt action what you can do, which is what I did in the last game, I paid for it as well, I split the units up into different sections and I broke a section off to operate separately, because these are 19-man squads, they're quite hard to move around. So I broke a section off to use guarding a different area, and I used them separately. Although you can do that, I wouldn't recommend you do, because I ended up losing. Because it was
easy to get half kill.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to operate as individual squads and fire teams than it is to operate as a full squad. So you've got basically 3 squads make up your Polish unit, making a full Polish section, and then you get 3 sections in a platoon, and then you get an extra heavy weapons platoon. Heavy weapons section. So technically 2 more sets of this would make a Polish platoon with a heavy weapons spot platoon. That's right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really what you're heading towards if that's what you want to do. As it is, I think we're only going to get 1 motorised infantry unit. This is the only one we're going to need, because we're using them as railway troops. Basically stormtroops, which were the equivalent to the motorised infantry, but they operated from flat cars and stuff for the railway. As I said, the motorised infantry type troop was actually quite common through the Polish army. There were individual units that were trained that way. The railway troops either used the German helmet or the French Adrian. And until I can get some French head swaps, I'm sticking with these.
Yeah.
The great thing about these is they've got all the German kit and equipment on them. So they've got the German gas mask and stuff like that, and the German helmet. And I quite like that. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like the stances.
Yeah, they do look quite good, don't they?
Yeah. Rather than just standing still pointing a rifle.
Yeah. What you tend to get a lot is, especially in 28mm, you get multiple figures doing the same thing, and it's really annoying.
Yeah.
With this one, every single figure does something different in the box, so you get.
I have one, which is there's only 2 of them though, which is him and him.
Ah, that's because this is 2 boxes.
Oh, right.
So this is actually 2 boxes put together. So technically there are 2 of everything. But you don't notice when you mix them up when they're on the battlefield, so they look like plastic figures the way they're all different.
Well, that's when people pause the video and write it all down.
Yeah, I met people like that.
You're right, yeah, and you get annoyed with them.
Yeah. So the officer, who is this chap here, he's wearing the leather coat, and he looks really cool. I've taken the other officer off and I've put him somewhere else. So this is the basic unit as you get. And so, do you think it was a good idea making it into a large platoon?
For me, no.
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 Do you think I should have kept them in the 10-man squad?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Easy for me.
So that's it really. Tactically, we haven't really used them much yet. I would assume you just use them as veteran infantry as you usually do.
But this time it's harder to kill these veteran infantry than the ordinary 11-man squad.
Yeah, because now you've got
19 to kill.
So to bring a squad to half its number, to half its number in one turn, it's pretty much impossible. You need to seriously bomb them or something in order to get them down that far.
Now, even bombers is going to be hard to kill because you're just on 5s.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's it. That's the end of the video. Your talky thing at the
So if you
end.
enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below what you think of these elite infantry.
Yeah. So it's goodbye from him.
And goodbye from me.
Goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.